Explosive new reporting out today by BylineTimes looking into Megxit, which is an effed up nickname. But before we get into it, I want to show you this clip from the Stephen Colbert show with Prince Harry from earlier this year.
Once during lockdown where we said literally nothing, it was relentless. And that was a real eye-opener for me. I never thought that we'd be away from it completely, but I did think that we would get some form of peace. But that's when I realized that actually our mere existence outside of that institutional control was more of a threat.
According to this BylineTimes piece, it wasn't just that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were good headline makers. This might have been by design by the institution to get them back into the fold. The story opens up that in that first year when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were transitioning out of working royals, there was going to be a trial period where Prince Charles was going to give them £700,000 to help get them on their feet. The article alleges that that money was removed in retaliation for the naming of a top aide in legal papers alleging a cash for leaks arrangement with the journalist Dan Wootton, who was then with The Sun. Now they are outwardly saying the name in question, which is Christian Jones. This all happened before William and Kate and Harry and Meghan split their comms teams. Christian Jones was brought on as the new Deputy Communications Secretary for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. He succeeded Simon Case to becoming Prince William's private secretary in 2020. You might remember Simon Case as the Fly, allegedly, from Prince Harry's memoir Spare. Doesn't have nice things to say about him. Jason Knopf is also in the picture. 2019, what a time to be alive. Just as a reminder, Byline Investigates was reporting on Prince Harry's legal move over cash for briefings claims at The Sun. And the report was over whistleblower claims that the tabloid paid the partner of a royal official £4,000 for stories about Prince Harry. They do not name Christian Jones in this piece, but they are doing so now. As a result of Charles pulling that money, it makes sense that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle would have had to throw themselves into commercial deals to be able to fund their security and buy a home. Which, because I cannot say this enough, is disgusting to do to your family. Speaking on that financial abuse, let's revisit Tyler Perry from the Harry and Meghan documentary.
Use the institution to try and do all the things that a batterer would do, like, oh, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut off the money. We're going to not leave you security. We're going to do all those things to make you comply and come back.
This was allegedly a bold-faced manipulation tactic to bring them back into the fold. Because as a source puts it in this article, quote, the greater truth is that Harry and Meghan make better headlines than the King and Camilla or William and Kate. The idea of them still being in public service but abroad and out of the control of the institution and dominating the media narrative just couldn't happen, end quote. Because the bargain that BylineTimes alleges that the senior members of the royal family made, that if they cut off their funding, their security, and allowed the British media to engage in an all-out media assault, that Harry and Meghan and Archie would be forced to come back to the UK with their tails between their legs. I think that goes back to Harry saying that even though they kept quiet and were just trying to live out lockdown, the media would not leave them alone. Back to the alleged cash for leaks. Several sources say that the partner of Christian Jones, who's a publicist, was paid £4,000 by Rupert Murdoch's The Sun in August 2019, allegedly for articles relating to the Sussexes. Interestingly, the publicist doesn't deny getting paid, but he says it was about a reality TV star with a similar name. What do you mean by a similar name? Is it Meghan or not? Jones, of course, has denied any wrongdoing. As Prince Harry says in his book Spare, there was a tell in Dan Wootton's January 2020 article about them stepping back from the royal family that gave the game away. It was something that nobody else could have known. It was a private and confidential letter to his father that a very small group of people had access to. In a way that reminds me of Dan Wootton and his accusers while at The Sun, it has more to do with not wanting information to come to light in court than the actual issue at hand. Worries not so much what's going to come out about Christian Jones and cash for leaks, but what it might expose about a system that exists between the royal family and the British media. As written in BylineTimes, a second source with links to the royal household said, Christian Jones' problem promised to drag the hidden dealings between the palaces and the press into the public domain. It goes on to say that that was deemed highly undesirable by the offices of Prince Charles and Prince William, because there was always lots of horse trading going on with the editors and their correspondents to ensure favorable coverage and protections when scandals broke. This got me thinking about the Turn-Up-Toff scandal. What a court case involving Christian Jones and Harry and Meghan might reveal about how that scandal, alleged scandal, was completely wiped from the papers. I think it's important to remember that before 2018, Dan was just a showbiz TV editor. In 2018, he starts taking on the royals, which makes sense. A lot of people did. Angela 11 is but one example of someone who pivoted to the royals because it was just simply more lucrative. But in the summer of 2019, he switched, according to BylineTimes, from basically having really terrible things to say about Prince William behind the scenes, did not like the guy, to hating on Harry and Meghan. Dan's rural rival fallout story came out in March 2019. It's interesting, right? Because Dan was not keen on Prince William. And I still think the story potentially got pulled because of higher ups. But I can't ignore the possibility that Dan just switched to the Sussexes because hating them was more popular and more lucrative. His career skyrocketed once he made that transition. There's also a quick look in this article about a whistleblower over at The Sun, which included an accounting code that they believe was Christian Jones's partner. And there might be some connections within these documents of Christian Jones's partner being paid for stories that later came out. For instance, in June of 2019, there was an article about Meghan and her nannies. And as BylineTimes says, this was deemed credible enough to warrant a referral to the Metropolitan Police. So that could be a fun one to dig into. This article is explosive because it names names, but really it just kind of confirms what we've seen all along. We're starting to connect some threads, like why Harry and Meghan might have had to launch into big deals off the bat in America, or why Tyler Perry had to provide them a home. The larger implications of a trial going forward that included Christian Jones. I'm going to finish up with this quote. The point is that the royal family is doing deals and trades with the press all the time for favorable coverage and protection and to maintain public relevance. The naming of Christian Jones threatened to shine a light on the entire unethical relationship between the institution and the press barons, and that could not be tolerated and had to be punished. Who's punished? Members of your own family, including a baby. There are other vignettes that are part of this umbrella story that I will get into sometime before the end of the week. I also created a new playlist so you can find all of this information in one place. Stay tuned.